Hey guys, this is Brendan McCauley, part of Club 3299 in Boca Raton. I just came back from the District 47, Areas 30 and 31 speech contest. Today is September 10th, 2016, and what I'd like to do is give you guys a quick review. So I did the same thing on the past contest that I went to. Oh, sorry, not contest, the workshop. And what I got a chance to do was just to run through basically the brochure, give you guys an idea of what you missed, the contest guide and ballot, sort of what that looks like, talk about some of the speeches, a few of my takeaways, what I got, and things that I think you guys will find that are helpful. The biggest call to action that Henry had given out to us, he said, please, when you guys are done, go back, share this with your group. So I like to do this as soon as I get back to the house, as quickly as possible, while it's still fresh in my head, locked in, to make sure that you guys receive the most benefit and that I don't forget anything. Plus, I can watch this later and see how I did. Ding me for ahs and ums. Please tell me about it, and I'm certainly trying to get better. Removing the so's. Let's start off with District 47, the agenda for the day. We had actually started this morning. They did a briefing for contestants. That was briefing for judges and functionaries at 8 a.m. That was the pre-event. The doors were open with refreshments at 8:30. And then finally to the program, they began at 9 a.m., almost on the dot, with opening remarks, introduction of dignitaries. They finally did the speech evaluation contest, had a little intermission. They then had the humorous speech contest, followed by closing remarks, recognition and awards, and then announcements of the winners. We did finish a little bit early. Originally it was set for 1 p.m. We got out at about 12:30. Post-event, they did have a 5-minute photo shoot with the dignitaries, contestants, and winners. And again, they did give out a special thanks to their community partners, Boca Raton Community Center, the Minutemen Press, and Fresh Point, South Florida. The speech evaluation contestants. So again, there were two areas. We had Area 30 and then my area, which was Area 31. From Area 30, and they actually changed a little bit from what they had on here. Some people couldn't make it, so I'll read what they initially had. They had Kim Beckett, Jean Broida, Nicole Edwards, and I believe it was supposed to be Wentley Williams, who wasn't able to make it, so I have in my notes the other person. From Area 31, we had Amanda Hart, Arlene Roberts, and John Schneier. That was for evaluation. For the humorous speech contest, we had Lisa Adair from Area 30, Paula Sedano, I believe is how you pronounce it, Antoine Dupont, and Tracy Lamb. And I'll double check to see if it was Tracy. It may have been somebody else. For Area 31, we had Laura Guy, Diane Kupelnik, and John Schneier. And then our district leader address was by Henry, again, Henry Ferguson, the gentleman I mentioned earlier, and he's being the Division C director. Notes-wise, here's what I got off of it. Now, because of the way it was set up, some were the evaluations. I'd say I got more out of the evaluations because I am trying to become a better evaluator. The humorous contest, what I did was just jot down the titles of what they had. They were hysterical. You know, ideally, I just try and get the feedback, and there was no evaluators of the humorous contest, so I was not able to see exactly how they would have been judged, say an evaluation had been taken place right after the humorous part was complete. But what I did do was jot down those that spoke, what I liked that they had said, and it gave me sort of a template and things that I could do to perhaps enhance how my evaluations go. What I'd like to do is go ahead and share those with you guys, and hopefully you guys get a little something out of it. If not, at least it kind of gives you a feel of how contests like these typically go down and the things that you can learn from them. Let's see. All right, evaluation. Originally, he had mentioned Krista Icona, but she actually did the second part. So the first one was Karen Katz, and her speech was, I won. She did make a shout out to Jean Valerie, who was her founder and mentor. And her speech of I won, it was basically, she functioned around 3 steps to the creative process was what she mentioned. I didn't quite catch it. First was to ask and to have an expectation. Second, it's not your job, but it's just created. And I'm sort of paraphrasing, so if I don't get it exactly right, I apologize. Number 3 was to allow inspiration and then just to take action. And I believe she said these were off of Abraham Maslow. The first evaluation we had was from Ruth Field Beck. I love how she did her evaluation. She mentioned, she said you gave us content, which we can use, which is always very important, the fact that they're giving content. And again, just for my own personal evaluations, I've noticed that I like to focus more on the actual content that they gave, which is not necessarily the purpose of the evaluation. Shouldn't be so content driven, content focused. It's more how did they provide the content. And I thought Ruthfield did a great job at this. She mentioned about delivery. She said that you shine through as who we are. Very inspirational, humorous, and fun. You gave me validation. When we speak and network, we bring our experiences, our hopes, and our content. You spoke about something very important to you. You mentioned leaders such as Henry Ford, and you used her body. And that was Ruthfield. Second evaluation was by Kim Beckett, which, by the way, I'll announce the winners after, so that way you guys can congratulate them afterwards. Kim Beckett said you started off with a question and then a follow-up question, which was fantastic. She recommended slowing down the question and repeat it again with emphasis. So, for example, what would you think if? No, really. What would you think if? So you repeat the question, put a little bit more emphasis on it, and really get your audience to think and start connecting with you. She mentioned that it was well organized. There were 3 key notes or 3 key steps. Gave a very good story, and body language was presented with confidence. She had recommended voice projection because as opposed to your normal Toastmasters meeting, which may top at about 30 to 40 people, there was roughly about 60, maybe 70 people in the audience today. So it's a longer room. You need to project more, have more voice projection. She also mentioned you could have used more pauses. She had said the topic was very interesting with a very good closing. It was very engaging, inspiring, and well organized. And she also recommended to consider a personal story. That was Kim Beckett. Number 3, Jean Broida. She mentioned that the speech was very uplifting and timely. Let's see. Oh, all right, there we go. Ding for an waited for the answers, which was fantastic. And Karen had actually asked a question, paused. I know a lot of times I believe a speaker gets up, asks a question, and then all of a sudden hops right into it before really giving their audiences a chance to think about the question, to perhaps even answer the question, or pick an audience out who's maybe raising their hand and saying, this is my answer. So she did a great job at that. Had a very friendly and engaging smile. Every time you raised a concept, you brought in an anecdote. Her recommendations were to be careful about overuse of gestures. So as opposed to just too much hand motions or too much maybe side to side or too much walking, maybe tone it down just a little bit. And then also to turn the table on the audience. And I believe she had mentioned, how would you feel? So exactly, so when she's giving her evaluation, as opposed to just speaking directly to Karen who gave the speech, ask the audience, how would you feel if such and such? If you had won the lottery, if you had won whatever it is. So that was Jean. Number 4, we had Nicole Edwards. Nicole had said, beautiful topic. 3 things that stood out to her. And I believe she had meant to say 3. I think she only came up with 2. I think the last one might have escaped her, but she still did a fabulous job. The first one was that she was genuine, that she spoke with her heart. Second one was structure, that there were 3 steps, as mentioned in a previous evaluation. Recommendations, stronger power and vocal variety. Let's see. Oh, walk closer to the audience. So, for example, if you're speaking to your audience and you're moving side to side, and you come over here and then you walk and you come over here, feel free to step up. And the closer that you get in front of somebody, the more powerful it can be, and the more actually easier it is to project to your audience because you don't have such a gap in between them. And, okay, so just to kind of recap, she said 1 or 2 questions, perhaps instead of 3 to 4, would be recommended. That was Area 30. Area 31, Krista Icona was the other speaker, and Krista's was the importance of finding your voice and keeping it. And Krista had talked about 3 points in her life. There was 2 phrases that she had used that I thought were interesting. She said, don't let individuals paralyze you. And she said, be who you are going to be. I thought that was powerful. The first was Arlene Roberts. She was the first evaluator. Arlene said, life is about using all the crayons in the box. And she had actually tweaked it a little bit to say that Toastmasters is about using all the crayons in the box. And that Krista had used a story that was so personal and it was such an intimate portrait that her sweetness really came and shone through. She was definitely mesmerized to learn more about it. And the last thing I had got from Arlene, cool little phrase. She said, "Tell me I forget, teach me I remember, involve me I learn." That was Arlene. Then we had John Schneier from my district. He said there were 3 stated objectives that he wanted to try and go over because there was not a specific criteria on which he had to evaluate. First was that the intro grabbed me. Second was how well the body held me. And third, did it have a memorable closing? And John's recommendation was when you go up and speak, you don't even necessarily need to start with saying good morning or good afternoon or good evening. You could even just jump straight into it and just grab their attention. Like, have you ever thought of, or would you ever consider? Something that you can just get right in, pause for 2 seconds, pop out a question, and immediately you have their attention. Second one, he said, when you make a mistake, you don't necessarily need to apologize. You could turn it into something humorous. And for example, I believe, let's see if I jotted it down. I believe Krista had made a mention. She said, when I was 28, and she said, no, I'm sorry, when I was 38. And John's recommendation was, instead of saying, when I was 28, no, I meant 38, but 28 would have been great. And you can turn it into sort of like a humorous spin on it. And you put a twist, so that way you don't even need to feel like you need to apologize, but more of a, hey, I can put a little something funny on it, make the audience laugh, and they'll connect with you really well. Number 3, and that was John. Number 3 was Amanda Hart, also from the same club that I'm at. She had said, filled with advanced speaking techniques, I saw poise in eye contact, I saw hand gestures and movements, I heard personal stories and vocal variety. Her recommendation was to keep a journal log, use a catchphrase. Otherwise, she loved the story about having a personal transformation. All right, and then we had the humor speech, and this was the last portion of it. So those were all the evaluations that we had prior. For the humor speech, number 1 from Area 30, we had Paula Sedano, and her speech was titled Being in Mom Trouble. Number 2 was Antoine Dupont, Being French in America is a Matter of Speech. And he had some pretty funny ones I jotted down real quick. Apparently, so when you say it with a French slang to it, as opposed to focus, it came out as focus. For bed sheet, it came out as bed shit. And binoculars came out as bunny cooler. So there were definitely a couple in there that made me laugh, and he certainly had everyone in a roar over those. Third was Lisa Adair. Her title was Blonde Moments, Good and Bad. And number 4 was Tracy Lamb, Wait Until Your Father Gets Home. Then we had Area 31 humorous speeches. The first one given, again, this one actually was by John Schneier. He had the presentation titled The Visit. Second was Laura Guy, The End of Insanity. And third was Kevin Smither, 1994 Sailfish Triathlon. And I believe he actually had substituted for one of his partners or one of his other members in a group that was supposed to come and speak, but obviously was not able to make it there. So he was fortunate enough to step in, and thank you, Kevin, for doing so. Henry had topped it off at the end with a couple of anecdotes and just congratulations and little tidbits here and there. He said he has this one little paperweight on his desk. I thought I was interested because he was talking about leadership, and he said if you're not the lead dog, the view is always the same. So he threw a little bit of humor. Let's see. Oh, another thing he mentioned too, when somebody does a good job, or even just the fact that they're speaking, so do not get down because you didn't win a medal. And for those of you who are in the audience, the biggest thing you can do, he said, it's sometimes saying the simplest things that can have the biggest impact. And he recalled one time when he went up to just a lady who was in the crowd watching a speech, and he gave her some positive feedback. Doesn't recall exactly what it was. And sometime later, he saw her again at like another big district conference division, something or other. And she basically came up and she said, do you know why I'm here? And he goes, I'm not quite sure. And basically she said, you inspired me that day to want to come back and to keep pushing. So just remember, guys, the people that put themselves out on an evaluation contest, on a speech contest, that's not easy stuff. And it takes a lot of encouragement to really get up there. It takes a lot of guts to stay up there. and a lot of willpower to keep going. And for any of those names that I mentioned that were brave enough to get up and do this, not only in your own personal districts, but then at, a bigger level, and then hopefully to move on and on, really support them. It's not an easy thing to do, but the more encouragement we get from our groups, I believe the easier it does get. As for the winners for the eval contest for District 830, or not district, the 830 group, second place was Jean Broida, and for first place we had Kim Beckett, so congratulations to both you two. For 831, John Schneier placed second, and Amanda Hart placed first. Excellent job, guys. Way to go. In the humor contest for 830, we had Antoine Dupont place for second, and Paola Sadeno placed in first. And for 831, we had Laura Guy, who had placed in second, and John Schneier with first place. Guys, you did a fabulous job. I learned a ton. It was definitely great to be out there. And, if nothing else, even just to meet other fellow Toastmasters, just to network and see all these familiar faces that over a period of time in between the trainings that they offer, between the contests that they have, it's a great way to get in there and really understand all these little things that you learn that you don't maybe necessarily get on like a single Tuesday night or a single Wednesday or a single Thursday, just in an hour-and-a-half time frame you normally have. So I highly recommend that if you have not been to any of these events or these district meetings or contests or additional trainings. I mean, I know Steve Winters in our group is having a comedy, I want to say it's like a 4-hour comedy workshop that's free. Okay, free events are critical. Take advantage of them. If you can go, okay? Turn off the TV for 4 hours. I promise it won't kill you. You'll get a lot out of it. Ultimately, it was a fabulous contest. They did great. And if you hear their names and you know them, please send them a shout out. Say great job. And I look forward to their next speeches. Definitely look forward to the next ones. But and hopefully I can give you guys another review on the next thing I go to. Hope you guys find this valuable. If you do, please, if this is on YouTube, do me a favor. Right to the bottom, hit like, hit subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.